everyone! So today I am bringing you my January wrap-up. So January was a pretty good month as far as reading goes for me. I got through 8 books, which is starting the year off with a bang towards my reading challenge of 100 books. So goals, doing it, we're doing it. But I read some fantastic books this month. I feel like I'm setting the tone for the year on a really, really good note. So without further ado, let's get into the books that I read. Now, the first book that I read this month is The Mare, and this is by Mary Gateskill, I think. I picked this up surely because it was about horses, and if you have watched my channel at all, you know that I have horses, and I will probably always pick up books about horses, regardless of how cheesy they are. It's just a fact. But this book turned out to be something that I never expected it to be. There's a extremely stereotypical storyline in horse books. It's always about an abused horse that nobody can ride and nobody can do anything with, and an abused child who happens to magically bond with this horse and is the only one who can touch the horse or ride the horse, and they live happily ever after they win a race or horse show. And this book definitely has that storyline, but it reads way more like a very serious adult contemporary read about some horrible things in this girl's life that also happens to have horses in it. It reads very differently as opposed to a normal animal story. This book is about a Dominican girl who goes through the Fresh Air Project and ends up at this couple's house kind of as a foster child, where she gets to go to a farm to start taking lessons. And of course there is a horse there who is severely abused and nobody can go near it, and she of course connects with that horse. Stereotypical. What's different about this book is it's very dark. I had very mixed feelings about this book because I feel like it tackled issues beautifully. The writing was phenomenal. If I take nothing else away from this book, it's that I will read anything written by her, because the descriptions are just so perfect. If you have ever been a horse person or know a horse person, the descriptions of how the animals are and the bond that you share with animals is perfect. Like, I don't know how she managed to put into words the feelings and the bonds and the descriptions of horses or horse life. It's perfect. What I didn't like about this book is that she tried to shove too much negativity in it. I feel like a lot of books like this try and push how horrible life can be in, like, the ghetto or in, like, an ethnic family's home, and I feel like she pushed it too far. Every horrible thing that can happen to a person happens to this girl. There is animal abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. There's rape, and there's pregnancy, and there's PTSD, and religion, and politics. Every negative aspect that you can describe in a character's life happens in this life, and I feel like that kind of overdid it for me. But I gave it 3 stars just because I'm torn between how much I loved certain parts of the story and how much I hated a lot of the rest of the story. Like, it didn't balance very well, so it kind of fell in the middle for me with 3 stars. After reading that book, I definitely needed something way lighter, so I picked up The Rosie Project by Graham Simpson, and this book is everything that everybody says it is. It's quick to read, it's hilarious, I laughed out loud reading it. If you've ever watched The Big Bang Theory, this book is Sheldon Cooper tries to find a wife. It's pretty much about a scientist where they never really address any sort of social issues that he has directly, but it definitely implies that he has some sort of, he's somewhere on the autism spectrum, I want to say, but he clearly has some social flaws, and he pretty much can't figure out why he has everything else in life. Like, he is set in his regiment of, like, work, health, fitness, everything is going great, and he is determined to find a life partner. And it's the story about him meeting this girl who pretty much changes his thinking about everything, and how he has to reevaluate how to look at life, and that it's not a pattern that you have to follow. I love this book. I gave it 4 stars. I'm looking forward to picking up the sequel. The characters are just so great. It was very lighthearted after The Mare. The next book I picked up is one that I picked up immediately after Christmas, and I'm so excited. But that is Illuminate by Amy Coffin and Jay Kristoff. You know, the hype that has been going around about this book, I get it. I get it now. This book is just beautiful in every way. It's just, look at the artwork. It's just so cool. In case you've been living under a rock, this book is told through documents and conversations and emails and diagrams. And there's definitely some art, typography going on in this. It's pretty much supposed to read like a documentation of some cataclysmic event that happens in space. That's all I'm going to give you. That's all you really need to know going into it. I didn't really know anything at all except how cool it looked going into it, and it was great. It was a great ride. I gave it 4 stars. The only flaw that I had with it is it felt like it kind of drug a little bit getting to the climactic moments. There were a lot of conversations that I feel like could have been cut out, but that kind of added to the feeling of a document because it records everything. So I just love this book. I can't wait to see more from them, and the sequel is coming out sometime in 2016, and it can't happen soon enough. So love this book. The next book that I got to, you might be surprised that I haven't read it yet, considering that it's been on my shelves forever, but I read Prodigy by Marie Lu. I read, what's the first one? Legend? Yeah, I read Legend, like, probably back when it came out, back when the whole dystopian phase was happening in its prime, and I remember liking it. I remember thinking it was a really fast read, it was enjoyable, but it was very much a cliche YA dystopian story. And I kind of never picked up the second one, or the third one. I haven't even gotten to the third one yet. But this book, it was enjoyable. I'm kind of glad that I waited to get out of that dystopian slump to come back to the series, just because it does read very, very dystopian. But I liked it. I like the characters still. They're still enjoyable, and it was a very easy story to hop back into after a really long time of not having read it. But this book definitely has the middle book syndrome, in my opinion, where they don't really get anywhere. I feel like the second book in a trilogy is always, they set up the scene in the first book, the third book is the big climactic battle moment once the world is built, and the second book is just them getting from point A to point B. And some stuff kind of happens, sometimes they introduce characters, but I feel like it never really accomplishes much other than segueing from first book to third book. And I feel like this kind of did it. I gave it 3 stars. I still really enjoyed it. It was very easy to read, but definitely second book syndrome. And surprisingly after that, I went to another Marie Lu second book, and that is The Rose Society. This is the sequel to The Young Elites. I got this for Christmas, and I have been waiting forever to read it. This book does not have second book syndrome. This book is everything that you want just an installment in a series to be. It doesn't matter how long the series is, it's just as important as the first book. This series is very quickly becoming one of my favorite YA series just because of how dark it is, how different it is, and I don't quite know where it's going, and I don't think Marie Lu knows quite where it's going at this point. I remember watching an interview from her, and she hasn't quite decided what she wants to do with the characters, but it's very much a villain story, which I love because I feel like every YA book tends to end happy and the hero gets everything that they ever deserved, and this book is not giving Adelina that. The first one didn't, the second one didn't. This book is just so dark and ominous, and it's great. Like, as you're reading it, you listen to the thoughts that are going on in the main character's mind, and you're just like, whew, that was rough. I can't believe you thought that, but I like that it's not sugar-coated or edited out. So I just love the series. I'm giving it 5 stars, just like the first one, and I cannot wait for the third one to come out. If you haven't read the series, I definitely recommend you check it out. It's set in kind of an ancient Italian historical fantasy world. That's the best way I can describe it. Everything in the setting is very ancient Italy, and it's just, everything about this book is so complex and dark and amazing. Read it. And over the course of the whole month of January, I read through the Magician's Trilogy by Lev Grossman. I already did a review on this whole trilogy, which I will leave linked down below. This series, I think, is honestly being added to Harry Potter and Narnia and Lord of the Rings in my mind. And I don't know why it's not bigger than it is. These books just need to be read. They are so good. Just a brief description of them. It's set in the real world. It's set in a fantasy world. There's multiple universes and dimensions. It's a thrilling, fast-paced, weird, strange, disturbing story about magicians who discover how to do magic and how to travel between worlds, and there's just so much in it's just too vast to explain. Just just read these books. That's all I gotta say. This entire series is a 5-star read for me, and this is going on the list of top books I've ever read. Just, that's it. That's all I got. So those are the books that I read in January. Obviously, the Magician's Trilogy took the cake for this month. I can't stop thinking about it. I want to reread it. I'm contemplating rereading it, but February has a lot of books coming out that I also want to read, so I probably shouldn't, but I might. I don't know. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys had a good reading month, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!